Markle stands accused of shocking heartlessness after her frail father was caught in a major earthquake, but she didn't seem to care one bit. The difficult Duchess's brother, Thomas Markle Jr., is furious that his sister made no effort to establish that her 81-year-old stroke victim dad was okay, especially amid fears that following a massive 6.9 magnitude quake in the Philippines, he was trapped on the 19th floor of his crumbling apartment block. As it turned out, the epicentre of the seismic shock was 100 miles away, and Thomas Markle Sr. went on to report that he had come through the ordeal unscathed and was just fine. But when his fate was not known, Meghan's silence throughout enraged her fuming relatives. There was not even a phone call to check that the loving parent who raised her and to whom she was once inseparably close had survived. Seething Thomas Markle Jr. has told friends that he believes Meghan's extraordinary lack of interest in whether her father was alive or dead was psychopathic. Meanwhile, as petulant Prince Harry struggles to absorb the harsh truth that his plan to spend more time in Britain to take on royal duties is a total non-starter, his not-so-regal American wife is embroiled in an escalating cruelty row after animal rights campaign group PETA took her to task over her treatment of chickens in her unacceptably boring Netflix cooking dross with Love Meghan. There she is in one scene, coochie-cooing the feathered friend she keeps at her Montecito palace in the sun. And in the next, she's got her hand up the backside of a slaughtered plucked chicken, calling the poor thing our lovely lady. In an excoriating video posted on the Duchess of Sussex's favourite social media site, Instagram, PETA asks, did Meghan just call a chicken's dead body lovely lady? Yes, she did. Next PETA question. Isn't it twisted to cuddle a chicken 1 minute and shove your hand in another the next? Well, you decide. I'm an animal lover. I simply detest cruelty to innocent creatures. It's the one chink in my tough guy armour. So while I'm certainly not some crazed vegan, I don't eat meat. But I would never moralise about those who do. It's a personal choice, and it's not my position to say what's right and what's wrong. What do I know? But I do think PETA makes a powerful point on Meghan lovingly cuddling and stroking her vibrant backyard hens shortly before forcing stuffing into a dead one and, as she oddly puts it, tying its back legs together in an elegant way. Elegant? I don't think so. Of course, this is not the first time Meghan has found herself in a world of trouble on the animal welfare front. In an earlier episode, the self-styled domestic goddess stood watching as chef Jose Andres knifed a live lobster through the back of its head, whispering, "Come here, baby." Looking somewhat nauseated, Meg gasped, "He called it baby." Yeah, Mrs. Sussex, not unlike you calling that recently killed chicken our lovely lady. But then, just as she seemed appalled by the twitching crustacean's execution, the Duchess perked up and chirped, "It's the circle of life." Or, from the murdered lobster's point of view, the circle of death. Could it be that these hard-to-watch macabre carcass scenes helped contribute to With Love Meghan's abysmal viewing figures? In terms of television entertainment, animal cruelty and epic tedium is not a great combo. Please, Netflix, no more. Make it stop. In other news, as the truth comes spilling out about what really happened when Harry met the King for the first time in 19 months, old bull in a china shop Ginger Nuts has done it again, ruining whatever goodwill he may have restored with a furious statement that, and I quote, perplexed and saddened his dad. When the press reported that Harry was surprised by the formality of his reunion with Charles at his London mansion Clarence House, the Prince fired off an endless press release hailing the tea for two get-together as an emotional triumph. Dukey boy wants us to believe that his plans to come back to Britain 4 or 5 times a year and even take on some of his estranged brother William's engagements are all systems go, which they are clearly not. Charles told his troublesome son in no uncertain terms that he will never be allowed to be a half-in, half-out royal. It's all or nothing. And if he stays in California, nothing it will always be. Harry didn't get his own way. And what do little boys do when they don't get their own way? They stage hissy fits. Welcome to yet another Harry tantrum. Make them stop.
This could have been a PR win for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle this week. They were so friggin' close, okay? On Thursday, Harry and Meghan are set to collect yet another award, this time Project Healthy Minds Humanitarians of the Year at the group's World Mental Health Day Gala in New York. And because one appearance is never enough, they'll be back the next day for the organization's World Mental Health Day Festival, presumably to remind everyone just how humanitarian they are. Critics are understandably skeptical of the award, recognizing their efforts to protect children online from online bullies, given Meghan's own history of bullying allegations. Then there's the awkward matter of Harry and Meghan's supporters, who've become notorious for the very kind of online harassment the couple claims to oppose. They just had to show up in their little 4-car motorcade, pose for some photos, collect a piece of plastic, then release a press release the following morning claiming they were victims of a near catastrophic car chase. You know the drill. Yes, we were going to totally destroy them over their vanity, but that wouldn't stop the usual legacy outlets like the Today Show, Good Morning America, and People Magazine from spending the week fawning over Harry and Meghan as if their saintly service is single-handedly saving humanity. But they just had to go and blow it up, didn't they? I mean, also, can I just side note, have you ever noticed that real working royals are usually the ones distributing the awards and not accepting them? The contrast is stark. Anyway, desperate to salvage their 2025, Harry and Meghan Markle's latest team put together a series of high-profile appearances to try to convince the world that they are relevant and more than just poor jam salespeople. The first meeting in the series was a reportedly chilly interaction with Charles III, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of his other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of faith, King Charles III. That's right, media. Don't forget about Prince Harry's proximity to people that matter, even if they really have become total strangers. The second PR appearance is rumored to have been a meeting with President Zelensky because he doesn't have bigger problems on his hands like, oh, I don't know, Putin. Media and public reactions started off strong. Harry handpicked who had access to him. So, of course, in return, he received positive press, a little quid pro quo. But that didn't last long. How this backfired? It backfired in the form of someone from the Sussex camp leaking that Prince Harry, who just learned how to pay his own phone bill in 2020, had matured enough to develop a new working model for his role within the royal family. The same guy who couldn't even record a podcast is now developing new job descriptions for a 1,000-year-old institution. What's in that herb? Okay. The palace pounced, saying, yeah, there is no room for Prince Harry, zero. Whatever working model you're being briefed on is a figment of his imagination or a hallucination in some of those cases, if you know what I'm saying. Then this rumored Zelensky meeting is overshadowed by Prince Harry saying he never talks smack about his family and has no regrets. It's like they're their own worst enemies. So then their helpless PR team is like, we're going to have to bring in the big guns. It's time to deploy the Markle Sparkle. Enter Paris Fashion Week, and I'm about to go all over the place, so make sure your tinfoil hat is within arm's reach. And while you're at it, grab your top sheet or your closest roll of toilet paper so that we can all look like Meghan Markle at Fashion Week. Meghan's team claims that she's at Paris Fashion Week to support her friend, who is the new creative director of Balenciaga. The storyline completely blew up in their faces when you saw that awkward video of the hug and face kiss greeting that actually looked more like an assault. These are two people who clearly do not know each other or have an established friendship. This guy also doesn't follow her on Instagram, so she's certainly nobody's muse. By the way, Balenciaga has a really dark track record. They were canceled a few years ago for very good reason. This new guy, totally unassociated, but it's worth going into. I've seen outlets dancing around these details, and I'm going to tell you as much as I can without getting in trouble on this platform, because I think it's important that you know the type of brand that Meghan Markle is supporting. 2 controversial ad campaigns. One was themed their gift shop / holiday gift collection campaign. And it was released around November 2022, where children are shown posing with teddy bears or teddy bear purses, dressed in bondage or BDSM style gear, leather harnesses, collars, fishnet tops, predatory, sickening, revolting. I mean, who puts those types of things together? You just don't, right? Then there was their spring 2023 campaign, a separate set of images released shortly after those shot earlier. It included props in a business office style setup. Among those props were legal documents referring to a U.S. Supreme Court case about inappropriate images of minors. It's the United States versus Williams. And also artwork and book props by an artist whose work is considered disturbing in the context of children. Because it involves children with objects or themes, adult paraphernalia, typically associated with grown-up content, this was beyond problematic. Even if the intent was artistic or provocative, it crossed a line. The presence of serious legal documents relating to images of minors raised concerns about negligence and extremely poor judgment when it comes to the company's creative oversight. Balenciaga pulled both ad campaigns from all platforms and apologized. Initially, one of their biggest cheerleaders, Kim Kardashian, publicly condemned the campaign. She called the images disturbing, horrifying, and said, as a mother of 4, she was shaken. She also said she was reevaluating her relationship with the brand, stressing that her continued ties would depend on Balenciaga accepting accountability and taking action to prevent anything like that happening again. She clearly does not describe to Maya Angelou's school of when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Hi, Kanye. Because in January 2024, she officially became a Balenciaga ambassador again. To hell with basic morals and ethics. It's fashion. Why am I bringing up Kim K and Balenciaga? Because the devil works hard, but Kris Jenner works harder. And I want to remind you of a story that Maureen Callahan and I brought you less than 1 month ago, right here on Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Meghan Markle appeared to be taking strategic and increasingly desperate steps to revive her fading Hollywood ambitions. It was rumored, according to industry sources, she had turned her attention towards the Kardashian-Jenner empire, where family matriarch Kris Jenner reportedly had seen an opportunity to capitalize on Meghan's name recognition and, of course, proximity to real royalty. Insiders claim that Jenner was willing to extend a professional lifeline, but not without considerable strings attached. In exchange for her support, Kris is said to have wanted Meghan to promote Kardashian family ventures, from Kim's Skims line to potential appearances on the family's reality series. Sources also allege that Jenner hoped to feature Meghan on Khloe Kardashian's podcast, Khloe in Wonderland, encouraging her to share personal and potentially embarrassing insights about her time with the British royal family. A representative for the Sussexes strongly denied any arrangement or collaboration with Kris Jenner. Just ignore all of those as ever gift baskets Meghan sent to Khloe and Kris that they posted on Instagram. However, observers suggest that Jenner's outreach was calculated. Meghan, they say, is eager for mainstream Hollywood acceptance, something she has struggled to achieve despite her royal title and Prince Harry's continued public presence. Kris Jenner's involvement could provide the exposure Meghan seeks, but at a cost. With Jenner's reputation for shrewd, profit-driven maneuvering, any partnership would likely serve the Kardashian brand first. A few years ago, the notion of Meghan Markle aligning herself with the Kardashians would have seemed far-fetched, unless you're me. I've been saying it from the get-go. But today, it signaled a shift, one that underscores both the instability of celebrity relevance and the lengths to which Meghan could go to regain her footing in the Hollywood hierarchy. The Kardashians have a long history with Balenciaga. I don't understand why there would be any other reason for Meghan Markle to be at that fashion show. I simply do not buy the story that Meghan is besties with the creative director. Sorry, not sorry. Meanwhile, I mean, honestly, you want to talk about friendship? They say that this white thing she wore, he designed specifically for her. Friends don't let friends walk out of the house in toilet paper. They just don't. Is that not proof enough for you? Meanwhile, critics are absolutely destroying Markle over the hypocrisy of accepting a Humanitarian of the Year award for protecting children while attending a fashion show for a brand accused of predatory behavior. I mean, you can't make it up. And if that's not bad enough, this mega moron shared an Instagram video riding in a limo with her feet casually propped up near the Parisian tunnel where her late mother in law, Princess Diana, tragically died in 1997. I know she's trying to have a cute influencer moment here, totally oblivious to the fact that she's 1 mile from Harry's mother's last breath. I know. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. Why? This is the same woman who tries to invoke the spirit of Princess Diana in every photo op. I'm already disappointed in myself. You're right. She chose to chase flashbulbs all over Paris, France. You saw the paparazzi videos, the way she poses for them. This is Prince Harry's worst nightmare. He tells Tom Bradby that shutter sounds give him PTSD, and there's Meghan in the very city his mother lost her life smiling for the cameras. It's beyond insensitive. It's wild to see. Like you wondered this, she's trying to build a brand on going the extra mile. And she doesn't even have the compassion and empathy to avoid something that might trigger her own husband. Like, does that make sense? It's like none of you're trying to sell us on this TV show where you make everything special. Well, you're literally traumatizing your husband. Okay. How does she not register this? Also laughable to consider the fact that Prince Harry recently told the BBC that the UK was not safe enough for his wife or children, but his wife is documenting joy rides around the same city his mother died in while voluntarily engaging with paparazzi. Also, to the person who commented that Meghan was walking around those photographers like she'd recently had a hip replacement, you owe me a soda because I spit the last one out. I laughed so hard. All right. But while Meghan was stalking the heavenly spirit of Princess Diana, Harry was crying stalker to one of his favorite publications. After Meghan's Paris headlines turned ugly, Harry's office conveniently reported that a known stalker managed to get uncomfortably close to him during his latest UK visit, not once, but twice. On at least one occasion, it fell to a member of Harry's own staff to physically block the intruder, highlighting what his team frames as a glaring security gap. According to Harry's team, these incidents supposedly prove the necessity of the high-level automatic protection he once enjoyed. And while he lost a very expensive court battle earlier this year to restore it, sources suggest he is not giving up. Why, that doesn't surprise me. In response, a palace source told the Daily Beast Harry and his team are faking their ignorance, saying Harry is pretending not to understand that the real issue is that he is not wanted here because of all the damaging things he and his wife said about the family. If he doesn't want to be confronted by stalkers in London, the answer is simple: stay in California. Have you ever read such a savage quote from a palace insider? I'm shook. Well, I want to know what you think. Do you, and I know you guys are debating who the stalker is in the chat room right now. I can feel it. And I've seen some of the theories. And if those theories are correct, imagine the betrayal if somebody that considers themselves to be one of your biggest fans is like, outed as your stalker. Oh my gosh, like awkward.
In an exclusive interview on Apple TV Plus, Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has said that there will be a revolution in the palace when he becomes king. What will that look like? Let's get the views of the brilliant royal commentator Rupert Bell. Hello, Rupert.
Morning, Mark.
Rupert, did the tone and content of Prince William's interview surprise you?
Not entirely, because he's always seen as a sort of bucking against tradition. He's a more informal approach, and I think him coming out with these statements in an American travel program with the brilliant Eugene Levy. I think he's not only is a fantastic actor. This program, sets going around places, a reluctant traveller it's called, but to get a sort of a ticket into Windsor Castle was a real coup for the program. And I think the informal tone, not only of the program, also the informal tone, it suits what he's about and his saying, right, he's not necessarily revolution, he wants evolution to bring it into a sort of modern era. And I think that means some of the traditions that you see, maybe things like the Garter Parade and things like that, the dressing up side of it, he's definitely not one for wearing all the robes. His father doesn't mind doing that, but in William's case, he's far less comfortable doing that. So I think that's the sort of thing. It might look different, but again, he knows he's got to make sure the royal family feels relevant with everything that's going on, and can it prove to be relevant? And that's his biggest headache. And this program was a start to try and show what he is about as a man, and how he sees the monarchy working going forward, not only for him, but as he said, for his son as well.
Does he have license from his father, the king, to lay out his blueprint for the court of King William?
I think, nothing, even a program like this might have been discussed with his father. And, it's the first time, I think it surprised Eugene Levy just how sort of open he was in various aspects of his life. But this is the tone that he set would have been, it very much goes with William and, what he's about. And I don't think the king would be entirely surprised. And the king wants, excuse me, the king wants him to be his own man going forward. And I think that's the important thing. And that's what you see from this program. This is his sort of laying out his royal vision, as it were, that it won't be quite seen as quite so stuffy. It will be more informal. He is a man who doesn't like wearing a tie. Unlike you, Mark, of course, you're more than happy to wear a tie. But he, you often see him going to things. He doesn't like all the sort of pomp and circumstance of the formal side of being a member of the royal family. And I think that's what we're getting a taste of in this program, which I think has left people, it's slightly blindsided people, I think, with what he came out with. Suddenly to say, what I think is how I'm going to be king was probably not what they thought when they heard first that he was going to be on this program. The most important thing is, of course, and as an Aston Villa supporter, Mark, that he does want us to win the European Championship, because and that's one of the big takeaways that I got from the program as well.
Up the Villa. Does William relish becoming king, or will it be his cross to bear, Rupert?
I think there's an element of burden. He does feel it. I think it's a bit of a burden, because, as he said, the most important thing to him is his wife and his 3 children. But then there is this added family, this big family, that is a burden. I think it's probably a burden to anyone, let's be honest, that that you have no choice. Your birthright dictates that you are the king, in his case, of this country on the death of his father. And that is a big responsibility. The king found it. He was a long time in waiting, but he knew, while it came, he's got the burden of expectation on his shoulders. And I think the same for William. And as he said, 2024 was the hardest year of his life, given what he had to go through, not only with his wife, but also what his father is continuing to go through. He knows he probably, when he's going to be king, it's not going to be in waiting like his father was for however many years that was. So, in a way, this burden of expectation, as he said in the interview, I'm beginning to come to terms with it. I found it hard to begin with, he said.
Meanwhile, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, jetted away from her Montecito home without Prince Harry to support a friend at the glitzy event. Is there trouble in paradise, Rupert?
I wouldn't say there's trouble in paradise, but someone needs to be centre stage after the Eugene Levy programme and Catherine being photographed. So let's be honest, we know what's going on. And of course, she goes to Paris Fashion Week, and no security issues, it appears. Her first trip to Europe since she was at the Dusseldorf Invictus Games. She's going off to New York this week to pick up a humanitarian award. Someone needs the oxygen of publicity, methinks. And yes, she grabbed centre stage at one of the highlights of Paris Fashion Week. The A-list Nicole Kidman was there, Anna Wintour was there, and she was on the front row. So methinks we know what she's been doing there, and that is to make sure that she is centre stage and just saying, I'm the really big draw for the royal family, not Prince William appearing on a travel documentary programme. I turn up at the Paris Fashion Week. Yes, she looked great, but there's a PR machine at work there, and yes, she's. But actually, funnily enough, doesn't it to fly from San Francisco or Los Angeles to Paris. Isn't she a great environmentalist as well?
Who knew? Double standards? Surely not.
Meghan Markle, a woman we love to stick the boot into, and quite rightly, a bewildering Instagram video over the weekend, and I saw it, and this is her in the car videoing herself with her legs up as she went past the tunnel in which Diana Spencer was so tragically killed in Paris however many years ago, that was 20. As she's driven past the tunnel, she goes from showing it to her feet and puts that on Instagram. And I have to say, on a serious note for once, Kins, I'm a royalist, and, you know, what happened to Diana was awful, tragic, misery. This woman is incapable of reading anything. That is just another appallingly tone-deaf action. Some people I heard were saying to me, "Oh, don't be horrible. She's just having a go at her about anything." But am I? I wouldn't put that past her, knowing what she seems to be like, to think that that was for a reason as well, to get coverage.
Look, she's trying to sell us all on this With Love Meghan television show where she goes the extra mile. She makes things special because she puts more thought into everything than a normal person would, right? Like, that's what her entire show is about, how she goes just that one extra inch to make sure that she entertains better, that she makes you feel good, that she makes you feel special. Then you should know better than to it looked like a wild paparazzi shot. I mean, there's no paparazzi in it, but, you know, it looked car chasey with the way that you're watching all of these Parisian landmarks move past you. And then she is so close to where Princess Diana lost her life. I mean, don't forget, this is also a woman that's constantly trying to tell us that she is the second coming of Princess Diana.
It's true.
If you're the second coming of Princess Diana, you should be more sensitive to these types of things. And Prince Harry writes in Spare about going through that tunnel at the exact speed his mother passed away. And
well, I found myself actually genuinely thinking, I wonder what he thought of that. I don't know whether he's literally not got a pair anymore, but if my mother had died in such appalling circumstance, I wouldn't want to have that triggered in my head by my wife. It doesn't matter whether she's got her shoes on. What's the point?
Why are you in Paris chasing flashbulbs when Paris has such a harsh memory for your husband? I mean, she's literally chasing flashbulbs. You can see her stop and pose for the paparazzi multiple times. She's eating up every second. She loves it. If I know that this is a place that my husband hates because it's where he lost his mom, where, you know, his mother had her last breath, I'm not going to go there, especially when he's on the BBC saying that it's not safe enough for my family in the UK, but it's safe enough for Meghan to be alone in Paris, literally engaging with the paparazzi you say killed your mother. Make it make sense, JK.
No.
There's no method to the madness.
Can't be. There's a couple of things. Andrew's devastated. He's literally texted straight away because he heard you say your husband. He says she's not married. No, she was talking about Prince Harry. Don't worry. But even better is Sue from Essex. Oh, Jez, great show. Can you tell Kinsey that I love her top? Can she flood the markets over here to hack off every single to hack off every single Gary Neville? So am I allowed to say this? Is that a blouse or is that a jumper? Do you say that? What do you say,
It's
sweater?
a nice little jumper, JK. Thank you for, it's a nice little jumper. Thank you, yes.
Is that your English accent or your American accent?
That's my Texas accent.
Can we do an English one? Because I want you to say, hello, this is Kinsey in my Union Jack jumper.
Hello, this is Kinsey in my Union Jack jumper.
That's like Eliza Doolittle. I'm going to have to teach you how to speak. That was good, though. That was good. Harry, whilst we're on the subject, Harry, I didn't know this until, I mean, honestly, Stalker came within feet of Prince Harry on his UK visit. Where?
Well, hey, isn't it a little convenient that this story comes out as Meghan's PR?
Do you know why I have you on? Because even in this office, they call me cynical. When I mentioned the old man did it, I know the games. Of course. Oh, yeah. So Meghan gets a load of because she's impersonated and done all of that, and 5 minutes later, apparently, Harry nearly came unstuck with a stalker. Well, we didn't know anything about it at the time, did we?
Exactly. I think that this is an effort to distract from all the negative headlines that Meghan generated in Paris. Because don't forget, on Thursday, Harry and Meghan are collecting those Humanitarians of the Year
Sorry.
awards in New York.
Even Dodgy Bald Dave's gone. What the actual hell? They're what? This is not, by the way.
That's such fake news.
It's not fake. It's the truth. What are they collecting?
On Thursday, around World Mental Health Day, they're going to New York, where they had that near catastrophic car chase, never forget, a few years ago, to collect Humanitarians of the Year award.
Presented by what? The Monster Raving Loony Party or the Fruit Nut Party? Oh, who's given them that?
What really annoys me about this award is that it's for their efforts in protecting children online. And here's just a fun backstory. Meghan went to the Balenciaga show in Paris.
That was an interesting
where
case.
They had to apologize recently for inappropriate ads involving children holding teddy bears with bondage costumes on. So predatory behavior from Balenciaga. There's Meghan Markle elbowing her way to the front row. And then a few days later, she's going to go accept an award in New York for protecting children. Again, I would say to you, make it make sense. I don't know what team we're on now, 165, 265, surrounding Harry and Meghan, helping them with their strategy.
What
but
strategy?
Cut them loose. Cut them loose, because this is a PR nightmare. Nobody does their due diligence. You are who you associate with. That is why you see the royal family so careful in who they're photographed with, who they engage with, what charities they take on, why they're pushing Prince Andrew out of the way. It's a hard lesson to learn, and Harry and Meghan just refuse to learn it.
Can I ask you quickly before we let you go? Two things. First one's serious. I saw something over the weekend. It was, what's that programme called? What's It Creek? What's it called?
Dawson's Creek?
No, with the guy that's interviewed Prince William.
You did that on purpose.
What's it called?
It's called Schitt's Creek.
Okay, there you go. Schitt's Creek. It is called. It's a great show. It's not. It's Schitt's Creek. It's not up. It's great. Anyway, the guy in there whose eyebrows look like they've joined together.
Eugene Levy.
Amazing. He interviewed Prince William, and it was all around. I was watching it the other day, and or reading about it. And William allegedly, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, hinted at major changes when he becomes king, which is music to my ears. Any idea what we're talking about here, or is this just press talk?
He's not. He says he does not want Prince George to have the same pressures on him, the same anxiety that he did. So I think, I know a lot of people are being dramatic about this, I think Prince William has proven to be a pretty sensible adult male, mature, responsible. I'm not going to lose my mind over this. I don't think it was disrespectful towards King Charles either. King Charles was always debating as Prince Charles how he was going to make this reign.
Of course he absolutely was. You're dead right. He was always talking about changes. Tell Kinsey she has the most beautiful smile on TV, says Steve. He's in a facility in Cambridge. And Michael's in Islington. I'm joking. He says, I love that beautiful lady and her beautiful jumper. I don't know why I did that accent. What is it with you? Oh, last hour. This is, you've turned from royal broadcaster to just American. In the last hour, the US Supreme Court has rejected an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell against a sex trafficking conviction without providing an explanation. The court declined to hear the former British socialite's appeal, which means a 20-year sentence will remain in place, barring a presidential pardon, Kins.
I don't know if, based on the fact that there are so many Americans angry that there is this bizarre, slow feed of Epstein files and everybody just wants to see everything unredacted and dumped, I don't think at this point in time Trump would intervene with Ghislaine, because I think it would anger a lot of people. There are demands that we see these Epstein files. Who is being protected by continuing to hide these files?
Why would he, let's just say, pardon Ghislaine Maxwell?
Because if there's not a list, then who were these women trafficked to?
I mean, I interviewed, as you know, for Talk 2 years ago from the penitentiary. I believe that he'll pardon her on his last day as president, but whether that happens or not, I mean, you're right. It's just like the biggest story. It's like, who else is on that list?
Were you surprised at all to see Meghan Markle in Paris?
Well, I was surprised to see her with her feet up in the back of her car, because I just think that is just such bad etiquette, full stop. Was I surprised to see her at Paris Fashion Week? Yes and no. And I think, don't forget the Queen sat in the front row of a fashion catwalk show with Anna Wintour. So, don't forget that. But I think, we are seeing Meghan doing different things. One of her friends, I think, is creative director at Balenciaga, and that's officially why she was there, according to her people, to go and support that friend. Fair enough. She loves fashion. She is incredibly stylish. I think it's very much about getting her out there, as sort of brand Meghan, and very much sort of severing those ties with the royal family. And I think sort of feeding into that whole sense of her feeling more like a celebrity, an A-list celebrity, as she would like it to be, than necessarily a royal as such. So we're seeing them doing more glitzy, glamorous things, turning up at awards shows. They're on their way to New York right now, aren't they, to go to an awards show? So not entirely surprised. And she did create something of a splash.
Oh man, imagining the queen with her feet up on the seat in front of her now too. No.
It wouldn't have happened.
Duncan, talk to me about your reaction to Meghan, specifically some of the negative headlines that circulated in the States. I can tell you, page 6, the owned by the New York Post, was the idea of the video that's taken a stone's throw away from the death site of Princess Diana. Do you think it was intentional?
Well, as I think Katie alluded to, I think it's just proof that Meghan lives in her own world, her own bubble. How insensitive. Your husband's mother died in a car crash driving along the same river by the side of the same river, and you're posting for your followers. I mean, it beggars belief, to be honest. When I saw that, I just thought, what on earth is Meghan doing? But it just shows she's ploughing her own path, and to hell with Harry.
Ooh. Oh, well, there's the quote of the day. Sorry, Katie, you've got some catching up to do. That was pretty aggressive. All right, well, let's talk about Harry, because the African Parks charity has had some difficulty over the last few years. It is associated with Prince Harry. It's been embroiled in a significant scandal involving human rights abuses committed by its parks rangers against indigenous Baka communities in the Republic of Congo. I won't go into the abuses because I don't want to get flagged on YouTube, but it's SA, torture, things like that they're being accused of. And they actually went to Tony Blair's wife's law firm, Sherry Blair, Omnia Strategy, and they asked for an independent investigation. And Omnia Strategy acknowledged that there were multiple abuses that had taken place, but they would not release a full finding of the report at the request of African Parks. So we don't know exactly what is confirmed, what they could not confirm. This week, Chad's environment minister gave a 4-page statement announcing the end of the country's 15-year partnership with African Parks. He accused the charity of a disrespectful attitude towards the government. He also said that there'd been a resurgence in poaching and a lack of investment at the reserve managed by the conservation group. Katie, you just said it yourself. Harry's on his way to collect a Humanitarian of the Year award in New York regarding mental health, but he's lost Senebale this year. African Parks is potentially crumbling. I'm being dramatic, but African Parks is clearly
it's certainly embroiled in a controversy, isn't it? And now, as you were saying, Kinsey, they have acknowledged that some of their rangers have been found guilty of committing some of these serious crimes. There hasn't been any publication of an internal investigation. And yet Harry remains, I think, on the board of that charity. I think he joined the board in 2023. He was at a big event with them in 2024. He hasn't announced he's stepping down. I mean, I think, Duncan and I were both in Africa together. I think it was back in 2010, Duncan, when we were out there seeing Harry's work with Centre Bali. And I mean, I was truly shocked, I think we all were, when he stood down from that charity amidst, all the rows with the chair and allegations of bullying. And it felt so sad for Harry to have to step down from a charity that has, it's no exaggeration to say, saved a country and was going to be one of his legacy pieces of work. And I think he will be very concerned by what he's hearing about African parks. I think, Meghan might want to be tone deaf in certain things, and, driving past that site in Paris might be an example of being tone deaf, but I don't think they can afford to be tone deaf when it comes to their charity work, because this is really, really important. And as you say, going off to collect this humanitarian award, well, that's fantastic, but the timing couldn't be more uncomfortable. And there are obviously some big questions to be asked. And I suppose the first one is, what does Harry know? And is he going to continue to sit on the board of African Parks? He's been there since 2017. Without a doubt, this charity's done some amazing work. But, for Chad to cut ties, they say because of a resurgence of poaching, there are claims of financial misconduct. These are really serious allegations and things that Harry can't afford to be tone deaf. And I'm sure he won't be. I think, the traction for Harry seems to be going in a forward, progressive way. He's not going to want something like this to unsettle that work, I would have thought.
Well, Duncan, Katie mentions the importance of Prince Harry speaking out or acknowledging it. He has kept his head down throughout this investigation. And there was an event in New York with African Parks Charity where the media was shut out. They did not allow any media in. Do you think he will speak out against this? Or do you think it's like one of the convenient never complain, never explain moments where Harry and Meghan actually embrace that strategy?
Well, look, Harry loves Africa. He fell in love with Africa when he was a young boy, and he has tried his hardest to attach himself to decent charities or even set up his own charities to try and make a difference. As Katie said, in Lesotho, the work that Centre Bali did was a game changer for the country. This is a body blow for Prince Harry. I don't think there's any question about that. And it shows the difficulty that royals have when they attach themselves to charities. And then it turns out that perhaps allegedly the charities aren't quite on the ground as watertight perhaps as they might be. So I think this will really, really worry Harry and frustrate him and make him angry. And it's yet another African charity, frankly, that's being ticked off the list, which isn't great for a prince that says he loves Africa.
I was just checking Us Weekly. Harry and Meghan's personal press release service, allegedly. I want to give you some of the headlines from Us Weekly in the last few hours.
Okay.
Meghan Markle quietly attends Balenciaga's Paris Fashion Week show. Quietly. Why Meghan Markle attended the Balenciaga fashion show in Paris? Her connection explained. Well, anything to try to dismiss those nasty predatory associations with that nasty ad campaign they did a few years ago. I mean, literally, she's just there to support a friend that you can literally tell she doesn't know, because when they go to greet each other, it looks like an assault more so than a greeting.
Absolutely, Kinsey, and her pursuit of privacy gets more impressive by the day, doesn't it? I mean, she's obsessed about not being pictured, not being seen, obsessed with her own privacy, and she flew all the way to Paris to preserve her privacy, didn't she?
She did. I mean, to me, this is just such a colossal mistake when it comes to, you and I were going to have a conversation no matter what on Thursday about Harry and Meghan accepting humanitarians of the year. Like, we were going to joke about what a vanity project this was and what it, how we can't take this charity seriously. But they were going to get really good press around that. And it was going to be the usual suspects, People Magazine, Us Weekly, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were going to be praised over the weekend for this award. I think Meghan is so greedy that this is all blown up in their faces. And now they will struggle to secure the great headlines that they were going to receive later this week because of how silly she behaved in Paris.
Absolutely. I think we're going to talk about her outfit and other aspects of this trip in just a little while. But when I saw her, like, hogging the headlines as well, wearing that kind of weird outfit, and you did a spoof of it, white. I said that she looked like the Pope after a bad night out. I won't use the exact words that I used. And you did a spoof, a sort of meme of her outfit looking like a toilet roll. But it was an appalling outfit. Everybody looked at it and went, "Oh God, what is this? This sort of white flowing thing, really rubbish." And but of course, for her, mission accomplished. I mean, it was dreadful, it was awful, but it was eye-catching. And it was always going to take the front pages by storm. She knew that. Mission accomplished, right?
I saw somebody compare it to a 5150 straitjacket. And, 5150 is where what Kanye was put into, Britney Spears was put into. When you go off the deep end.
Padded cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, after that Diana video, yes, it was giving 5150 jacket. Perhaps it should have been.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. The Daily Mail over here in London did a question for its readers, and it was it tasteless of Meghan Markle to drive past the tunnel in which poor Princess Diana perished in that terrible car crash in 1998. There she goes. To drive past it, to video herself with her feet and her toes up like that. Look at that. Now, I mean, let me ask you this. A lot of people say, well, she's just videoing herself kicking back and on her way back to her hotel or something, and it happens to be going past that tunnel. What do you think? Do you think she did it deliberately?
Oh, I don't know if I think she did it deliberately, but I'm sick of her trying to sell us on the fact that we should like her because she is so caring about other people. We should like her because she knows Daniel's favorite food, our favorite snack. Trying to sell us on with love Meghan being special because it's all about going the extra mile and making somebody feel special because you know all these little details about them. Well, if you know all these little details about your husband, you should know that in Spare, he writes about going through that tunnel at 65 miles an hour because he wants to recreate the feeling that his mom might have had. And that's where it hits him that his mother is really gone. And she didn't just disappear. Because he writes in Spare that for a while he didn't believe his mom was dead. And in that tunnel, he realizes she's gone and he has that realization. Andrew Morton writes about in his book how Meghan not only had his book, Diana, Her True Story, but in his Meghan Markle book, he writes about how Meghan was so moved by the death of Princess Diana that she collected toys and clothing for underprivileged children. And it's like, you should just know better. Like, are you really so stupid? Are you so callous? Are you so dismissive of your husband's feelings? Also, she makes a living off of her proximity to the British royal family. She must know what Paris means to royal watchers. It's where Diana had her last breath. It's where we lost Princess Diana, a woman whose skin she's constantly trying to wear and vulgarly become. Diana 2.0. Harry's always telling us she's just like my mom. So I just think that there's no excuse for it. I think she was trying to be a cute little influencer, and I think she comes off as a freaking moron.
And she's been mocked for this trip to Paris. Meghan in Paris, never mind Emily. She's talking about herself being back for her first time back to fashion shows in over a decade. But she basically hung out with serious Z-listers there, and it's been mocked as her Zoolander moment. In fact, you know, she looked like a sort of Zoolander freak in that useless outfit, and didn't exactly get to rub shoulders with the A-list while she was there. I mean, what struck me about this, Kinsey, was this. If she hadn't gone to Paris, I would have said to you tonight, well, you know, it's all been about Harry, hasn't it, lately? Everybody talking about his trip to London and his upcoming trip to New York, and he went to Ukraine, and Harry. Well, Meghan's gone very quiet. What's happening with her? And then suddenly you get this. And I sometimes think, I don't know what you think, that, you know, she's always at war with the British royal family about column inches, who gets on the front page. Every time Catherine, Princess of Wales, gets good headlines, big headlines, she's got to respond, old Meghan, with something of her own, you know. Catherine's going to the Trooping the Colour, bravely, her first appearance since being struck down by cancer. Meghan releases a new range of dog biscuits, that kind of tit-for-tat publicity war. I think there's something in her that she's also at war, publicity-wise, with Harry. If Harry gets a lot of headlines, somehow she wants to get in the press again. She wants to get in the media. And I think that's what this trip to Paris was all about. Harry's been stealing all the limelight. I want to get it back, says Meghan. What do you reckon?
I disagree, because Harry swoops in and tries to distract from all the terrible Meghan Paris headlines by claiming stalker. You know, a few hours after all the negative Meghan headlines starts to sprout, Prince Harry all of a sudden is in jeopardy. I think she was trying to distract from Prince William, his vulnerable interview on Apple Plus, which, by the way, has charted all over the world within the top 10. His interview with Eugene Levy on The Reluctant Traveler,
by the way,
where he says...
What did you think of that? What did you think of it? I thought it was great.
I thought it was great. I thought it was so sweet. I thought it was epic. And he says 2024 was the hardest year for me. Well, you know what? Meghan Markle does not want you to have sympathy for the Prince and Princess of Wales over a cancer diagnosis, because that shut her down in 2024. Yeah. Meghan Markle was not allowed to grow as an entrepreneur because Catherine and the King were sick, and she knew that anything she did would be destroyed by the media. Catherine's in remission. The King continues to fight fearlessly, his cancer. And so Meghan decides to make 2025 all about her. What we're seeing with Harry and Meghan right now is them trying to salvage 2025. I don't know if I'm allowed to repeat this, but I'll tell you, I just did a Meghan Markle documentary for a UK station, and they purchased every piece of product they could get their hands on for this documentary. Only a bottle of wine showed up. Only a bottle of wine. And then they got the email saying, sorry, we don't have that product you bought. Would you like to patiently wait for it? We don't know when it's going to be ready, or you can have a refund. 2025 has been a you-know-what show for Meghan Markle's as ever. First of all, she can't even have the name she wants, so she has to quickly change the name. Products are never available. People aren't impressed compared to price when the products actually show up. They're like, this is not worth what I paid for this. This is not worth the hype. Her show was destroyed the first go around. The second go around, it was completely ignored, which is almost more offensive to her. Her podcast completely disintegrates into thin air. What happened to Confessions of a Female Founder? She's a glorified jam salesperson. And then what is she selling at Paris Fashion Week?
Well, so what you think, you know, I bow to your superior knowledge. You think that the reason she went to Paris was that William was getting all the headlines because of that I watched the whole show last night, funnily enough, with Eugene Levy. Eugene Levy is an undercover, really good journalist, really good interviewer, I thought, over the pint, in a really charming way, getting the Prince to open up. And I thought it was great because he's not a journalist, and people say, why did you ask about Harry? And he just said, well, I didn't...
Why would I?
No, he said... Well, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But it was a charming show. Prince William emerged from it, I thought, brilliantly. Very intelligent, thoughtful person. As you know, he indicated, I thought quite forcefully, that when he becomes king, we're going to get a very different kind of royal family. It was quite hard-hitting in a way. He sort of was implicitly saying, oh, my dad's a bit of a stick in the mud with tradition. I don't think you should be weighed down by tradition. We've got to live for today. So he made that kind of announcement. He did actually mention Harry at one point, but they didn't discuss that. But everything else was... and I don't think you should just reduce it to this, but in pure media terms, it was a triumph, certainly for Eugene Levy, but also for Prince William. It was a triumph for William. So you think that Meghan was in Paris to try and sort of do something about that, do you?
Yeah, I just think that she probably was resentful that all of these sympathetic headlines were popping up, because in the days leading up to that interview being available in full on October 3rd, every single headline was about Prince William's revelation that he really hurt throughout 2024, and that was the toughest year for him. Well, Meghan was paralyzed throughout 2024 and wasn't able to launch her business because they knew that there would be a lot of resentment towards them pushing a commercial venture while the entire world was waiting to see if Catherine was going to make it, if the king was going to make it. So the last thing she wants are for William and Catherine to be sympathetic characters, or for the world to focus on the royal family's illness, or you really do start to recognize how shallow Harry and Meghan are.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it had a lot to do, the Paris jaunt had a lot to do with William's PR triumph. And I don't think he did it artfully, by the way. I think he was a big American Pie fan, wasn't he? So he thought, oh, yeah, let's meet you.
Yeah.
Let's meet Eugene. And I think
but there, you can see there is some strategy to it, because so right after that interview, he announces some new Earthshot news.
Yes,
we've got these new people I'm excited about.
Yeah.
And he knows that he's going to get more coverage for this Earthshot video and announcement because he just did this Eugene. His team is so much smarter than Harry and Meghan's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm proud of it.
Sorry,
I'm
not
glad.
sorry. Absolutely. No, I agree with you. In terms of as ever, though, we need to talk about Sentebale in a minute. Very interesting story emerged with Harry's former charity. We'll talk about that in a second. But you're right. I mean, as ever, it just seems to have disappeared. I mean, she makes a few rather tragic Instagram posts, you know, saying, buy my cookie dough, and nobody does. And you're right. I mean, I've experienced this myself. Your documentary you've been making, they tried to get all the products. Do you remember a while back when As Ever first launched its products on an unsuspecting market? I tried to get all of them. We managed to get 3. That was right at the beginning. We managed to get the Scam Jam, the cookie dough that I made, and dried flowers. That was it. You couldn't get anything else. That was at the beginning. Now, I suspect it's even worse. So you're saying that your colleagues on your documentary only managed to get a bottle of wine.
That's the only thing that showed up, and they've spent a ludicrous amount of money on expedited shipping. Yeah. I mean, it was for them, it was such a disappointing experience. And I'm like, but and this is a professional project. Like it was for work. But I thought, I said to them, imagine being a fan and you want to experience this and you receive the email, sorry, the item you ordered that we've already charged you for is not on its way to you. First impressions matter when it comes to a business. There is no way that this is sustainable, in my personal opinion. You cannot continue to disappoint people. You cannot continue to disappoint your audience. They're going to give up. They're going to move on. They're going to go to the grocery store and grab the cheaper jar of preserves.
Of course they are. Of course, like I always said, you know, novelty value maybe first time round, but going forward, why are people going to spend astronomical amounts of money on a jar of jam or pretend jam, cookie dough mix? Jar of jam. What is it? Is that $14, or the cookie dough is $14?
$21 for honey.
$21.
We're in a recession, girl, or we're heading there.
Yeah. So it's mundane domestic products at astronomical prices that you've got to wait 3 weeks for if you're lucky, that you can all buy in your grocery store.
Or forever, or you'll never get it.
It's just,
or you'll never get it because
exactly.
she says it. She doesn't have it.
Yeah, as ever, I predict has a very short future. It won't go on forever. That's for damn sure.
It occurs to me, I'm so frustrated over this mental health award that they're accepting on Thursday. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you say you've started this parenting network. They're accepting this award because they've started this parenting network.
About online bullying.
About online bullying, right? And I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't it be so much more meaningful if you said, thank you for the opportunity, but we want to hand it over to these parents that had the courage to discuss the loss of their child, you know, and give a platform to a courageous family that is willing to talk about the loss, the loss that they suffered in the form of their baby over online bullying. And then I start to think, well, why the hell would they do that? And then I go back to, do you remember this? Prince Harry having the audacity to accept that Pat Tillman award.
Mm-hmm.
And
even Pat Tillman's mother was like, I don't agree with this.
Oh my God. And I had forgot. Everybody keeps saying, well, he accepted the Legend of Aviation's award and he couldn't even pass his test. And I'm like, yeah, but to me, the Pat Tillman award there was so much more vulgarity in him hopping up on stage and gleefully accepting that award, knowing that Pat Tillman gave his freaking life and Harry couldn't even cut it as a member of the royal family. He quit his job.
You know, if you side by side, do a side by side comparison of Pat Tillman versus Harry, Pat Tillman, for anyone who may be too young to know, was an American football star, NFL professional player, incredibly good looking, had everything going for him. 9/11 happens and he gives it all up to enlist in the military and is killed by friendly fire. Okay. The guy is an American hero. Harry takes his scrotum, hands it to Meghan, runs and scampers away from the evil royals, then whinges and moans for the next 10 years. He's been given everything on a silver platter. Now, to your original question, why wouldn't they just say, you know what, lovely honor, we'd be happy to attend and support, but really we would love it to see it go to a courageous couple or parent who has spoken out about their child who died by as a result of online bullying. I mean, the answer is simple. You're asking them to do the right and decent thing. No such thing. 2 very quick points. We're advocating for children and bullies. We know Meghan is a bully, allegedly, reportedly. Buckingham Palace has a file this thick on her. Number 2, she sat front row at Balenciaga, a house who, as I discussed on The Nerve, just 2.5 years ago came under fire for an ad campaign that was absolutely bald-faced, shamelessly promoting. Thirdly, she sat in that front row, and there's a clip going viral right now of Meghan, who seems to be laughing in the front row as a model walking the Balenciaga show, tripped, and she turns to her companion to look at him for affirmation. Isn't this funny? We're laughing at the misfortune of another. And the guy sits there stone-faced. He won't even make eye contact with her. This woman is poison. I don't know when the culture at large or the elites are going to get the message, but hey, keep inviting her to your stuff. Do it.
Yeah, that was Marcus Anderson, who is, leadership in Soho House. And I think that he knows how to behave, act like you've been there before. Like
exactly.
You don't giggle
Act
and
like you've been there before.
You don't giggle and cackle when somebody trips on a runway or, and you did. It's almost like she registers it's not appropriate and she quickly turns around and you're just like, do you know how to function as a human being?
She's vile. What it shows, if that is indeed what happened, that a model tripped and she laughed at it, and openly laughed. She knows cameras are on her. I mean, this is the entire point of the trip. Cameras. She thinks it's funny. She thinks she takes joy in the misfortune of others. And if this isn't, and I'm going to extrapolate, but fairly, I think, if this isn't further proof, apparently, and I know we'll get to it, William is fuming over that stunt she pulled, filming herself driving past the tunnel where Diana died. But if this isn't further proof that this is a malignant narcissist, my opinion, who revels in the misfortune of others and should be kept away by all measure. I guarantee you she took joy in Catherine's illness. I guarantee you.
Oh my gosh. Well, so I had to unfollow somebody I've worked with in the past because they wrote some article saying that if any other royal would have taken that video, which by the way, they don't, because they don't feel the need,
they would never.
They don't feel the need to document like their feet up on a seat. But if any other royal would do that, people would be like, "Ah, heart emoji." And I was like, what a moron you are to defend this. She knew what she was doing, Maureen. You can't I mean, actually what was so funny to me was when I sent you the videos, because I screenshot like a creep. You're like, how basic. And then I'm like, no, she's by Diana's death scene. And then you were like, she is sick. I mean, you're right, she's basic. But then you realize that this is more calculated than it appears to be. And I honestly think it's because she thinks she is one step ahead of us all of the time. And it's like, no, we know exactly what you're doing. That's what you're doing is you don't deserve the Duchess title is like the nicest way I can put it.
Let's talk about this interesting story about Sentebale that emerged at the weekend. You remember at the height of the explosion, the volcanic row that erupted between Harry and his sort of white privileged friends, and of course Sophie Chandorka, wasn't it, the doctor who runs the organisation. She was very worried about the kind of fundraising method that Harry liked. Harry liked to raise funds for Sentebale, a charity for kids in Africa, the victims of parents who've had AIDS and HIV, good charity and all that. He liked to raise money for it by getting together with his multi-millionaire friends in champagne events in Florida and playing a game of polo for very rich people. And Sophie Chandorka found that uncomfortable, thought it was a kind of sign of a sort of white saviourish kind of operation. She was uncomfortable with that. Sentebale have now, we learned this weekend, officially ceased any more polo fundraising events. Harry won't like that, will he?
If he's a logical person, he'll accept it, because while I agree with Dr. Sophie, I also understand that from a financial position, it was a complete waste of resources, similar to their London offices. If you look at the amount of money they're saving now that they've shut down their London offices, it's unreal. How much the charity is saving by shutting down their London offices. And, she's just saying, hey, we need to keep things centralized. Let's take care of our own. Why are we spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to fly to America so Prince Harry can film a Netflix show while he plays a polo match that's, supposed to support us? We'd rather get Prince Harry on a plane to come visit us and to talk through what exactly he's doing here. So I think it was just a cost decision. I think she makes a lot of great points about this white saviorism, but I think at the end of the day, there is a lot of debate about how valuable those events truly were. Okay, you get your picture on the front of a major newspaper, but is the person reading it or seeing it on the other end going to cut Sentebale a check? The likelihood was no. They weren't there was no call to action by looking at Prince Harry on a horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree with Sophie Chandorka. Look, I don't know how much money those events raised, but there was this feeling it was more for Harry and his mega rich mates and his chums than it was really for Sentebale, all getting together, drinking champagne, riding horses and playing polo. Very cruel sport, by the way. More for them than it was for Sentebale, and I think the Sentebale charity will generally feel a lot more easy now that won't happen anymore. But let's talk about, just before you go, Kinsey, always a pleasure to talk to you, of course. You alluded to this at the beginning of our chat, the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, are off to New York soon to be awarded Humanitarians of the Year award. This is Project Healthy Minds.
Isn't it just like that? But seriously, I want you to just think about the contrast between the last conversation you just had with me and what's coming out of your mouth right now. Harry had a blow up with Senabale. They accused him of bullying. They accused Meghan of bullying. And everybody that comes in and says, okay, well, the charity, whatever, investigated it and said that they said they cannot investigate individual claims of bullying. So I don't write that off as Harry and Meghan did not bully Dr. Sophie Shandaka, because the Charity Commission specifically said, we do not investigate individual claims, okay? Humanitarian of the Year, when all we've heard about this year is fights with Senabale exploding into terminations and the African Parks charity scandals.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious to know how these two people are saving the world.
This is supposed to be on Thursday, right? So it's only in 3 days' time. They're going to be at the Spring Studios in New York. They will receive the award, Humanitarians of the Year, for their exceptional global efforts in building a safer, more equitable digital world for families and youth, and their meaningful contributions to advancing mental well-being worldwide. What on earth is that all about? What have they actually done to deserve this award?
They shook hands with the right people. Their publicist called around and found someone willing to say yes. I mean, this is all just a PR strategy. They're trying to improve their image. And seriously, step back and ask yourself, how often do you see real working members of the royal family collecting trophies? They don't collect trophies. They distribute them. They use their platform to elevate people that are actually doing something in the world. Meanwhile, Harry's hopping around on polo horses, vanity project. Meghan Markle's doing her best Zoolander impression, vanity project. It's all, I've said this before to you, it's all theater. And I'm just exhausted. Like, when is somebody going to put these two in their place and say, you know, why don't you actually do something to contribute to society versus chasing a positive headline versus fixating on your own press? Because that's all this is about. Meghan and Harry wanting positive press. Like, actually do something that generates that organically.
Yeah, so they go on Thursday, and looks like they'll be together to receive this award at the Project Healthy Minds 4th Annual World Mental Health Day Festival. They'll actually be together receiving their Vanity Project Award on Friday. So much still to come. But it is a bit, it's something quite, I mean, it's sort of sickening about it, isn't it? Because it reminds me to when Harry got a Legends of Aviation Award from John Travolta. You know, and this is a guy who couldn't even pass his helicopter pilot's test. And yet he was awarded a Legend of Aviation Award. So these two are very happy constantly to accept these awards they just don't really deserve. It's strange, isn't it?
Well, I mean, Meghan, one of the things that they point out is Harry and Meghan's campaign to protect children online. That's why they're getting handed this award on Thursday.
What have they done? We remember that launch.
What I want to say is, I mean, they're working with this parent network that I actually think existed prior to them getting involved. But what I will say is, Meghan showing up at a Balenciaga show where Balenciaga was recently accused of, within the last 2 years, accused of predatory ads involving children holding teddy bears dressed in BDSM wear. Meghan, you need to stay away from the predators if you're going to be accepting. But actually, Balenciaga did something that Harry and Meghan have never done. They apologized. So at least the Balenciaga apologized. But if you're trying to paint yourself as a savior, which you are when you're draped in white, ready to collect an award at a moment's notice, then you've got to stay away from bad PR or from anybody that's got bad press. You are who you associate with. I can't believe she went to that Balenciaga show. You would never see Catherine, the Princess of Wales, associating with them, specifically because of the harmful imagery that Balenciaga published that included inappropriate images surrounding or in the context of minors.
Yeah, she didn't really think it through. I've got one last thought. I'm looking at the outfit again. I've had one last thought. You know what I sent to you. I better not repeat what I said to you over the weekend about it. But here's a sort of clean version of what it looks like to me. It looks like she's woken up in the morning in bed, and she's stuck in the sheet, and she can't get out. So she shoves her head through the sheet and then goes off to the fashion show. That's what it looks like.
I think that it's the cosplay she wears when somebody visits Prince Harry late at night and he thinks his mother's in the room. I don't know if Elizabeth Arden cream's involved. I don't know, but that's what I imagine. We teased this really sweet interview with Prince William and Eugene Levy on The Reluctant Traveler, Apple Plus. It finally came out October 3rd. So much positive press surrounding that, which you said, I think last week, hey, don't forget, this could be, we might want to consider this a clever PR move as well. But as sympathy grew online for Prince William, talking about that really tough year he had in 2024 and how proud he was of his wife and his father for the way that they dealt with cancer. Insert Meghan Markle traipsing all over Paris. So let's recap how great this interview really was and what exactly we learned from it. And also, did you think at any point when you saw Meghan in Paris, wow, what a way to try to steal Prince William's thunder?
That was my immediate thought on that. We'll go into that in more detail as we do. We save the worst till last on this program. We talk about the best of the royal family to begin with. Isn't that our point?
Oh, we talk about the working royals, the real royals off the top,
okay.
and then the extras, the spare team in the back. Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, my first take on it was, and sort of alluding to, clever PR move. It gave William the chance to be his informal self, and that's very much his modus operandi. He likes informality. And then when it came to the actual interview, the stuff about his family was obviously heartfelt, revealing, but I think the biggest takeaway is about how he wants the monarchy to evolve and how he feels ready. He said he was daunted by the family picture and maybe daunted about being the future king. But now he's in his 40s, he feels ready. And now that he's actually the heir apparent instead of being the number two, the reality has come home, that hard year in 2024, but actually how he wants to reshape the monarchy for a modern Britain and all its complexities. And we have a lot of complexities going on. So I'm sure it is exercising his little grey cells enormously to try and work out how can he fulfill his role perfectly. Now, this Eugene Levy, I thought was very clever. Coming up on his scooter, that was a sort of clever PR move. Who knew that he was a man who liked to...
I've seen a picture of it, and I hated it last year when I saw the picture of it. I hated it.
Why?
It just looked so silly to me. And then thankfully there was a picture like within 24 hours of him at a game where he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, sexy Prince William is back. Sexy Prince William is back.
Well, well, I know he's like that because he goes to Aston Villa, and actually Aston Villa got a mention in this interview because he says one thing he wants to happen is, I know I'm absolutely annoying so many listeners when I start talking about William and Aston Villa, and we won on Sunday, and he will be delighted. So, but he said his one thing he wants to see happen as a sort of bucket list moment in his life is for Aston Villa to win the Champions League. But in the big picture, that's not overly important. But in his personal, just like me, I share that feeling as William. But in the bigger picture, talking about his family and how
Well,
it
wait,
was
go
a
back
tough
to go because you were making a good point about the scooter. He leaves Eugene Levy waiting, and Eugene has a joke. There's a joke about how even
Yeah.
on this electric scooter, he's the king makes, or the future king, I should say, the future king, I should say, makes him wait. And I mean, I think I'm getting mixed up here because there's a lot of talk about the future in this. I mean, that was like really the focus is kind of like how daunting that could potentially be for him.
Well, let's be honest. The reality when you've got two members of your family covering in a cancer situation, you can. Reality often bites hard, and you are unaware. Now we think everything is going on as well as can be expected, but as everybody knows out there, cancer can come back like a thief in the night, and before you know it, you're back to square one. So no one is saying that this is a perfect scenario. You may be in remission, but you just never know. We've all probably had friends who you think, whoop-de-doo, they're in remission, and then before you know it, they're back under full treatment, and then obviously the worst happens. So the reality of what happened in 2024 brought home and probably accelerated his own thought process. Look, he knows his father's in his 70s, and obviously, you know, back in the day, 70 years was what we were expected to live according to the Bible. So, you know, now we all do live much longer. And so the life people we do expect, and given his family's record, getting into the 90s. But I would say that it would have rammed home the reality of the situation. And so this interview, away from the Madden crowd of like doing it on a big time ITV or BBC sort of big moment linked around something, to do it in a informal travelogue destination, and bearing in mind the importance of the royal family is actually a big selling point for the tourist industry. And if I'm not mistaken, usually Levy's program is about him visiting the reluctant traveler, going to fantastic places around the world. So it's a wonderful shop window in a leisurely way with a charming man who's got his, you know, there's two people out there. There's Stanley Tucci and his cooking program, and Eugene Levy, who seem to have cornered the market in charming elderly men doing travelogues of various descriptions. And Eugene Levy has now cornered a market. And to do that, and being a sort of wiser gentleman, as in Eugene Levy, he can do it in a not a probing way. He didn't want to, had no agenda, as he said, just to get the future king just to shoot the breeze about his situation. And I thought that was it was a shrewd PR move by the William PR team when they probably said, no, I've got this request here, what do you think? And they probably all looked at the program and went, oh, this might work. I don't know what you think. Have you watched the programs before?
Yeah. I'm not, no, I only watched it because of Prince William, but I watched it and I thought it was very sweet. And I thought the only time I see him with his guard down that much is when he talks about the children in the form of Earthshot. When he talks about his kids and how he's concerned for the future of the environment so that they, you know, so that they are safe and healthy. That's really one of the only times I felt like I've seen him. So I mean, vulnerable feels like a weak word, but it's not. It was just interesting to see him with his guard down. I'd be curious because every time I go to Windsor, every time I'm there, because it's my favorite place in the world. I'm so curious to know when exactly they filmed it because they look so alone. And it's hard to find Windsor so alone.
I think looking at, I think it was recorded in the spring.
Yeah.
Wasn't that green? Wasn't that green?
Right.
Okay. Wasn't, you know, lush. I would suggest it was over, you know, there was time during the early part of the year because we've had a scorching summer.
He has won me over when it comes to the scooter, though. I think that's important to say.
Well, I think you know it's a big place he has, and get around, and okay, probably all the people at Windsor. Oh God, here comes a scooter. We better sharpen up. You know, oh God, William's on the scooter. Oh, watch out, William's about.
Well, isn't it funny to imagine Prince? You know, they used to say that they would see Prince Philip all the time in his carriage around Windsor, and it's such a funny contrast to imagine Prince Philip in his carriage racing, you know, enjoying just feeling so
A drive.
free. Yeah. And also just feeling that amount of comfort that is required, but also that thankfully comes with Windsor. And knowing that now you could spot Prince William around on an electric scooter. I mean, it's just hilarious.
Well, I think it just, he wants, it's a big, Windsor Great Park's not small, as you know. And Windsor just getting around, and he probably nips up to the office, probably in the castle from his cottage or whatever. So it probably just a bit easier to unplug the e-scooter and off he goes. But I think the whole tone of the programme was interesting, and also the tone he wants for the monarchy. Now, people have some traditionists say he's too informal. He's not a man who's he more automatically goes to his tie cupboard, right? He would much be an open shirt, more informal. That's his thing. And I think that is the tone he wants to set. And I think it is interesting what he said about his children, not only within the Earshot Prize, because they've announced I think, nominations for the various prize categories for the big thing in Rio de Janeiro in November, but also the way they as a family operate. No mobile phones seems to be one of the things. They're absolutely verboten. And then, the fact that they try and sit round and have a family meal at the end of the day. These are sort of old-fashioned, slightly traditional values for a man who also at the same time has very informal approach to it. But I think one of the things that you get through it is the family talk. And he wants them to feel they can talk to each other. And if they're frustrated, or, talk about mum's illness, which is one of the things just to say, not try and hide it away and say, oh, it'll be all right on the night. Just to maybe tell them slightly the reality, maybe slightly sugarcoat it. But you know what I mean? For Louis, probably doesn't need to hear warts and all. And maybe George and Charlotte don't want to hear warts and all. I probably think they don't, but they want to know that mum's not great. We just got to be mindful. But looking at her now, she's at the back, climbing down steps in high heels that seem to create us backwards. I mean, is that difficult? I don't know.
I wouldn't want to do it with a million cameras and video cameras and photographers around. I could tell you that much.
Well, I've never worn high heels, so I'm sorry, listeners, but viewers, allegedly. So I can assure you, I have no idea.
Here, pull your camera down. Pull your camera down towards you so I can see your chin. Oh, there it is. There it is. Thank you.
I've got one. I'm not a chinless wonder, as people of my type are often referred to as. But no, the point being, I think the tone of the programme was very good, and fair play to Eugene Levy for pulling off a master stroke for his programme, because it will get eyeballs in this country, and Apple Plus must be, the other lot at Netflix must be going, I wish we'd got that one, because Apple Plus must be saying this particular episode, particularly in this country, will be good viewing. Because I think
I saw that it was already ranking pretty high in the top 10 throughout the world on Apple. So yeah, it's doing really well.
Well done. And bear in mind, usually Levy, I think he's 78, isn't he? So he's older than
He looks like
William's
a young
dad.
buck. Yeah, he looks like a young buck.
And he doesn't look like he's had the full Hollywood treatment. He looks like his face is real.
Yeah.
So for a 78-year-old man, he's still got laughter lines. So you don't see that very often. But anyway, fair play to Eugene Levy for pulling it off. And I think it was great feel, and actually backed up what I think he wants as to be the monarch, a much more informal. He probably doesn't want to do all the dress up. The Knights of the Garter ceremony, I don't know whether you've been to that in June. Did you go and see that, where they're all ermined up?
I kind of love that. I hope he does he did say that tradition was important, and he was going to keep some of the tradition.